Today we're going to talk about coordinate grids. So you can go ahead and add coordinate grids to your table of contents. And this is 5G1. That's a different objective. Okay. One important thing there to know about coordinate grids is there's an X coordinate and there's a Y coordinate. And these two things create coordinate points. Your X coordinate or number always comes first, then it'll be listed comma, and your Y coordinate. Okay? One way I like to remember that X is first is I like to think X comes before Y in the alphabet. Okay? And one way that I remember on the grid, we'll talk about another way I remember what X is and what Y is on the actual grid. Okay? So I want you to look at the coordinate grid equals map page from day 51. And you can see that there's 4 quadrants on a coordinate grid. Now, quad, remember, means 4, so there's 4 of these quadrants. We are only going to talk about quadrant 1 right here on your coordinate grid, where there's an X and a Y, and both X and Y are positive coordinates. Okay? Down here, you can see X is positive, Y is negative. Here, X is negative, Y is negative. Here, X is negative, Y is positive. You'll talk about all these other 3 later in your years of schooling in middle school and high school, okay? But for our purposes, it's as if only this part right here exists, okay? X, you can see, is right here on your coordinate grid, and you have Y. This should be a Y. It looks more like a V, but you have Y right here. So X coordinate is the number that it goes across, and your Y coordinate is the number that it goes up, okay? So X equals horizontal or across, Y equals vertical or up and down. So to give you an example, if I have the X coordinate or X value of 2 and I have the Y value of 3, and I have my coordinate grid here, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, I would go over 2 because that's my X coordinate. I wouldn't make a point there. And then I would go up 3, and I would make a point right there at over 2, up 3. Okay, so that would be the point 2, 3. Alright, if I had another point, let's say my X was 4 and my Y was 1, I would go over 4 and up 1. So this point would be 4, 1, because my X is 4, my Y is 1. Okay? So you have X and you have Y coordinates. X is how many you go across, Y is how many you go up. Notice I don't make 2 different dots. I don't make a dot for X and a dot for Y. I go over, pause, and then I go up to my Y, and then I make my dot. So I have to consider both my X and my Y before I make a point on my grid. Alright? We're going to go over the Introducing Coordinate Grids homework, and it wants us to use a way that we could describe how to remember X and Y coordinates. One way that I like to remember is X comes before Y in the alphabet. I also like to say that X means you crawl across before you climb upstairs. Okay, and that would be like the Y. So X means I'm going across, Y means I'm going up. So I think you crawl before you climb upstairs. So that lets me know X always comes first. You can think of a different way and share it with us when you get in, okay? Now it wants me to plot the points for the first letter in your name. So I'm going to plot a W. So I'm going to make points that would make a W when I connect them. So I'm going to start with going X over 1 and up 6. So I'm going to write that in order. The big thing about coordinate points is the way you list them is the way you connect them in order. So this point would be 1, 6. And then I'm going to go over 2 and up 3. Okay, so my next point would be 2, 3. And I'm going to connect from my first point that I made down to my second point. You're doing your own letter. You're not going to do Miss Reynolds' letter. Okay? Then I'm going to go over 3, up 4. That's where I want my next point. So 3, 4. And then I'm going to go over 4, up 3. And connect there. Then I'm going to go over 5, up 6. And connect it there. Notice that as I listed the points, I connected them to form my W. Now, if I just listed all these points and didn't bother to connect them in order, I might come up with a different letter. That's why I wrote this point first, made this point second, and then I connected the first one to the second one. When you make your letter, make sure you connect them in order. Okay? When you're done with this, you are going to glue it into your math notebook. Okay? So you're going to create your own letter on this coordinate grid of your first name and glue it into your math notebook. Alright? We're going to look at just a few more examples of X and Y coordinates. If I have the point 3, 6, that means my X is over 3, my Y is up 6. Okay? And remember, I go over and then up and then I make a point. Okay? If I have 7, 10, that means my X is 7 and my Y is 10. Okay? If I have 3 and 5/10, 6 and 5/10, that means my X is 3 and 5/10 and my Y is 6 and 5/10. Okay? My silly saying for today is, let's see, Alyssa has on a pink jacket.